And welcome to another edition of KOPN Tech Radio. Today is the 25th of May, 2015, and welcome to our second inaugural video program. Yes, if you tune into our YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe. Why not? You'll be able to see the new episodes as they show up and all that good stuff. This is only the second time we've done it, but John has created quite the rig, and, watch the first episode. I don't think it turned out all that bad. It's given us quite a bit more viewership, or, compared to a standard audio-only.
We had 34 additional people see our show.
That's quite a few more than the standard, but, mostly friends and family, but, that's... Can't ask for much more.
At least two of those viewers.
There you go. Yeah.
Looking at it from separate accounts. The audio should be better for this next show as well. But not because of better audio quality. I found out a problem with my transcoder, and I would say about 1 out of 10 people that listened to the YouTube video didn't only heard this blah 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 sound.
Wow.
Because YouTube didn't interpret the audio encoding settings I sent to it in a consistent manner based on how the person was viewing it.
Interesting. Huh. And that's like a well-known thing, like in the tuber community. Or?
I would like to think so, but no. No, I found that magic combo that
wow
confuses YouTube in the right circumstances.
Well, you'll have to share that with me.
Doesn't everyone use webcams multiplexed into the Linux box to record the radio shows?
No. Yes.
And then transcode them with 2 other pieces of software.
Yeah, we should probably do a special article, a how-to.
Or at least a starting place, and then as you come up with improvements, let us know about them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's definitely an evolving process, to be sure, and, the same goes for, professional outfits, too. I mean...
And we use software called Open Broadcaster Studio to record the show.
Okay.
And I'm already toying with the idea of going to their GitHub account and adding
some changes.
And,
okay.
Something, because right now we don't have the ability to do camera movements without actually moving the camera. And since we're only using a small percentage of the resolution of those cameras, it should be possible to do a digital pan and scan.
Okay.
So that if I move, people will know. The operator will have because we don't have a separate cameraman.
Yeah.
We got someone helping out running the software, but he's studio. You wouldn't want to be called cameraman.
That'd be inaccurate.
Okay, so what we do on KOPN Tech Radio when we're not setting up audio podcasting or video vodcasting for our show is we scour the web for the latest and greatest technology and science-related news, and we bring it to you fresh just after 6 p.m. each and every Monday from the studios of KOPN 89.5, and that's mostly what we do. It's also a call-in show. If you want to call in, do be aware that what you say on the phone line there will actually end up on our YouTube show. So I don't know if that has any bearing on what you intend to say, but anyway, I wouldn't let it. 443-TALK if you want to be on air.
You're already being heard by the public.
Yeah.
It's just more public.
Yeah. 443-TALK, that's 443-8255. We'd love to hear from you if you've got your own technology or, or the science-related news stories that that you want to talk about, or if you just want to comment on the things that come up as we talk about sort of the headlines that we've already flagged that we want to talk about. John, was there anything that immediately came up? You usually print out your articles.
I do. I like to call it the permanent e-ink.
Yes.
I should
permanent
stop.
E-ink.
In my defense, I've started doing double-sided copies. Actually, this one really didn't hit the big press, but I was very excited about it. AMD is coming out with a new form of DRAM tech for video cards, which they can push over 100 gigabytes per second in data throughput on their stacks.
Wow.
Back up a little bit. AMD, as well as NVIDIA and Intel and a few other players, do graphics cards for computers. And so what we're talking about here is the memory that's on the graphics card rather than on the central processor.
Okay.
Typically with central processing memory, if you access memory, it goes through the core of the processor, and then it's evaluated the processor and it goes back out to the memory. It's a very simple transaction, which is what you want on a general purpose processor. But when you're doing graphics, you're oftentimes doing a lot of very simple but critical transactions, like calculating vector distances and that kind of stuff. But not just one or two. You're doing thousands of them per second. And so dedicating hardware to just one purpose makes more sense. But in the past, most of the graphics cards out there were still pretty much under the CPU model. Now, they had a separate CPU. They called them GPUs, which separated offloaded load from the central processing unit. But even there, with the dedicated GPU, it was still doing direct linear access to the RAM that was on the video card.
Okay.
What they're doing with this is they're stacking the memory at the hardware level so that it's very, very parallel for certain processes within the system, which gives them throughputs that could real well change a lot of the graphics industry.
Yeah.
Which until now wasn't really that important, but with the new, I think we did a story a couple weeks ago about what's that new 3D headset?
The Oculus Rift.
The Oculus Rift has huge graphics requirements. That's going to make it very expensive and very hard to pull off, because what they're trying to do is 60 frames per second. Because frames per second makes much more difference on 3D when you're rendering, because 30 frames, you can't visually see the difference between 30 and 60. In other words, you can't see the flashes of frames, but you can intuitively sense it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using it for balance. Like as if you had something covering your eyes.
Yes. Yeah.
That frame rate becomes much more important. So they're demanding a huge amount of processing power out of the computers to offload this and make that more efficient. The timeliness of this is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're calling it high bandwidth memory. The mechanism they're using underneath. Now, will NVIDIA and Intel follow suit? I'm sure they will. It's sort of there being a lot of patents.
Now, I know that, how does this fit into sort of like the 3D chip tech? I guess there were, some...
most GPUs are 3D nowadays.
That's what I was... And built on a stack of wafers, many tall and with interconnects between the layers and things like that.
Yeah, the graphics... The folks making the graphics processors have almost been in the forefront of the CPU industry, which is ironic since they're not making CPUs. They're making dedicated processors. In fact, because they're so well at these dedicated tasks, there's actually libraries out there for using the GPUs in these computers for other
general purpose computers. Yeah.
The most successful and useful
CUDA probably
engines for doing Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
And decryption and encryption analysis are using GPUs. They're not actually using the central processor. Just acts like a manager. General management. And with a bunch of GPU employees.
Yeah, if you have a generalized computing task that can be, reduced down to vector arithmetic or whatever,
to a small algorithm done a whole bunch of times in parallel, rather than do one at a time. You can spawn, 50 of them simultaneously and have them all crunched out at the same time. And in fact, the graphics cards have gone so much 3D that like Direct 2D, the latest versions of that from Microsoft, the graphics engines, are more or less layers on top of the 3D engines.
Oh, yeah.
They're not even native 2D anymore. They're just, it's 3D, but we're not going in the Z.
Z-axis of 0 for this one here. Yeah.
It's a flat... a flat screen in my 3D space.
That makes sense. Everything is a shader now.
Yes.
Whenever you're like, what? This is a 2D graphics thing here. Why are we dealing with shaders? Well, you can't not. So,
if we have time on the show, I did a lot of research on Windows 10 over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
And there's unusual stuff coming out about Windows 10 that actually makes a difference than just another incremental thing. But let's get into some real stories first.
Okay.
By the way, as we discuss these stories, I want our listeners/viewers to know that links to these stories will be on our Facebook page, KOPN Tech Radio.
Thanks very much for making that possible there, Mike.
That's why I'm staring down my phone a lot.
Yes.
Done live.
As I'm looking up stories or following your stories, I'm looking for it and putting it on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
To some extent, we never know what stories we're really doing until the show starts.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
half the stories don't make it, and half do, and we talk about
the stuff between Monday and Friday, is news. But over the weekend and including Monday, stuff changes. So
Yeah. Let's see. We could talk about the guy who found the exploit in Starbucks gift cards.
Oh no.
Yeah. A security researcher said that he found a way to game Starbucks gift cards to generate unlimited amounts of money on them. Both he and the coffee chain are grumbling after he used a fraudulent card to make a purchase, but then repaid the amount and reported the vulnerability. Igor Holmakov of the Sakurity, spelled Sakurity, security consultancy, Sakurity, found a weakness known as a race condition in the section of the Starbucks website responsible for checking balances and transferring money to gift cards. To test if an exploit would work in the real world, the researcher bought 3 $5 cards. After a fair amount of experimentation, he managed to transfer the $5 balance from card A to card B, not just once, as one would expect, but twice. As a result, he now had a total balance of $20, a net and fraudulent gain of $5. The researcher then went on to visit a downtown San Francisco Starbucks to make sure that his attack would actually work and, buying coffee and merchandise at the Starbucks.
So with $20 on a gift card, he can almost get like $3 worth of actual coffee.
Yes. I see what you did there.
And $17 of upcharge. Okay.
Yes. He used the 2 cards to make a $16.70 purchase. He went on to deposit an additional $10 from his credit card to make sure that the U.S. justice system will not put us in jail over $1.70, he explained. Anyway, so now he's he documented online how he, in a blog post of how he tried to responsibly disclose this to the techies at Starbucks. And he mailed this. There's an email address, informationsecurityservices@starbucks.com, and it was only answered on April 29th. So basically this all kind of went down in early April. I guess they didn't actually send any reply at all until April 29th.
What did they... What was their response? Because, the software companies are used to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they have real clear policies about how they treat that kind of stuff, which is a mixed bag so far in the industry. But largely speaking, for those that don't know, if you call in, if you send in security exploit information for something you just discovered, like how to break into their website, you send it to like Google or something like that, as long as you don't publish the information on the internet.
Yeah.
Or just disclose it to the press for a certain period of time, they will treat you as a friendly and thank you for what you've done, because then they'll look at the security issue and that kind of stuff. And sometimes they give out financial rewards.
A bug bounty. Yeah.
They have a bug bounty. As opposed to, and this gets where things get gray, because that's a reasonable response. Now, if someone does this and then talks about it on the press but doesn't say how to do it, then they'll treat you like the enemy and sue you.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they won't. It's the other strict combinations there where you really gotta be careful. So I was interested because Starbucks isn't really a tech company. So what was their response to it?
Well, I would argue there's more laptops and smartphones than there are cups of coffee in any given time in the store.
There is a lot of technology at your neighborhood Starbucks. Yes, this is true.
Yeah.
And
AT&T is monitoring them.
Yes, AT&T has a partnership with Starbucks, and I think that.
By the way, in case for those that are listening, do not log into your bank and do credit card transactions at your Starbucks
or any public Wi-Fi.
Or really
place.
Any public Wi-Fi, but that's like home central for the hacker community to grab people's stuff.
Yeah.
That's
again.
Of the places to go and log into your bank account, that's not it. Do not do it at your Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even log into Amazon there. I
Even
would
if
go
you're
in
adding
publicly.
money to your Starbucks gift card. Yeah,
I wouldn't do that.
No.
Right? You don't put your credit card number over that. Now, in fact, if you want to truly be paranoid, most browsers nowadays support privacy mode. What they call incognito mode, I think, in most of them, where you can go, and I won't say what that's usually used for by most people, but it's also used for security at places like Starbucks, because then you're not even passing cookie information about who you are. You're browsing the web as an anonymous user, so all that the hacker learns is that you have an interest in laptop computers or something. And they don't learn anything about you.
And they can't steal your login cookies for Facebook when the little like button comes up.
let me turn your microphone on.
There we go.
Okay.
Nabil's with us.
Nabil, hey.
So, in news today, it's not Sunday.
This just in. Earth to Nabil. Yes, Earth to Nabil.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about here today?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys talked about it yet, but did you guys hear about the tape recorders in New York City?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
this is interesting. Underneath the tables.
Yeah, so you know how we always hear this mantra, you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to hide. So some group, we're not quite sure who they are, went and took a bunch of, old school tape recorders from the James Bond movies and duct taped them under public places, like under a bus stop bench and under, a table at the coffee shop, under a subway. And then they went and they collected all the tape recorders after a day.
For the tapes. Actually,
tapes.
left a lot of the tape recorders.
No, tapes and tape recorders. Old analog James Bond, man.
Yeah.
And then they went and edited some of the audio to take out names and, addresses and phone numbers and all that fun stuff. And they published it online to show people that they really had nothing to hide. Results that came out of this were really interesting.
Apparently from very embarrassing conversations that
Oh, wow.
had they
Yeah.
left the names and stuff in there.
Yeah.
In fact, one could argue it still could be embarrassing because I'm sure someone's going to recognize their voice and go,
Someone's going to recognize the topic of the conversation. And someone's going to recognize the topic of conversation and be like, "Well, you were telling that to whoever?"
mm-hmm.
Yep. But I mean, it really does bring to light. I think it's an important matter that it really shines a big light on, because if you are one of those people that were recorded in conversation, that's the same. That's the same thing that goes along, but we don't see it. But this puts it in your face, and when you see it, you have a very different reaction to it.
Yep. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. They were, by the way, in case you're wondering, breaking the law.
They were breaking the
Because
law.
in New York, at least one party, similar to Missouri law actually, one party has to be aware of the recording.
Yep. And in this case, all parties had no knowledge.
Yeah.
Well,
no parties had knowledge.
yeah.
Right. The third party that put in the tapes, they weren't in the conversation, so they were not a party.
Yeah.
They were an outside.
But they're part of the NSA, man.
They didn't know who they were recording, though.
No. I mean, actually, if this went to court, it might be tough to prosecute them without demonstration of damages and blah blah blah. But still, it's against the law what they did. Missouri is very specifically one party has to be aware of it. They view recording a conversation that you were having with somebody else as simply an extension of your memory, whereas other folks consider that some states, I think California is one of them, both parties have to be
I'm not sure what
agreeable.
states.
I don't remember which states are which. Both parties. And then the federal government is nice and vague, and you don't know. Now, ironically, if you call someone from Missouri, it's the other state's laws that you have to obey.
Really?
Yes. Whereas if they call you, it's Missouri's laws that have to be obeyed.
Oh, so I can just be like, "Hey, give me a call back."
Yeah. Call me back so I can record you.
That's what the guys in Crank Yankers would do. I don't know if you remember the show Crank Yankers.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, there were certain. I think it was there were certain states where it was legal for them to cold call and and all that.
And there's one state, I don't remember which one it was, whose laws are so worded in a vague sense and yet so strictly that even both parties are aware of it. you're probably violating the law.
Wow.
It's a wiretap.
Wow.
A wiretap in which both parties are okay with it being recorded. I don't know. That's a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, life goes on. Yeah.
Mike, anything you want to talk about?
Let's see. Well, I'll have to pull up our Facebook page because everything I wanted to talk about is on Facebook. So let's see here.
We can come back to you.
Water, the weirdest liquid on the planet. I love this story.
Is water here now?
Weird, wild water.
Water is the only substance on Earth whose chemical formula has entered the vernacular. But even though if we don't know what H2O means, it breaks all the rules. And I thought it was interesting to just go back and look at what water does that other liquids don't do, which allows water to sort of sustain life on the planet. And while it isn't a news story, it's real interesting science and sort of breakdown story as to what it is that I think people should sort of reflect upon when it comes to, just getting down to the basics. One of the things that I really like about water is it's one of the only substances that gets bigger when it's solid.
I was about to say, ice floating is not the way chemicals normally
Yeah,
work.
so
It's not supposed to work that way.
just about every other substance, when it's turned into a solid or gotten colder to turn into a solid, goes to the bottom of the same substance. But water is like the rare exception to that, and it's got to do with its crystalline structure, which also helps water do all kinds of things chemically, and it's just really, really, it's a really interesting story. I want you guys to look at it on our Facebook page.
Cool.
Yeah. I think water is most dense at like 3 degrees or something like that.
Yeah. Is it 4 degrees Celsius?
It's pretty cold. So that's
36
its
degrees
densest.
Fahrenheit.
But it actually gets bigger as it gets even colder,
Mhm.
and then when it turns to ice, it gets huge, which is backwards. If you think about a solid is something where the molecules are no longer spinning around and moving around.
Right, and they
They're held
condense.
together. But ice gets bigger when it's not moving around.
Now, after a certain temperature, by the way, ice does get
Does
smaller.
start to shrink.
It does start to shrink, but it still floats. So it never really gets smaller than its liquid counterpart. But that's also why laboratories keep their refrigerators at a certain temperature. It's so the glassware doesn't shatter. They want their liquids to stay cold, but not too cold because they don't want ice crystals to form. Because also, if ice crystals form, it does bad things to proteins inside the lab and whatnot. But they want it to be as cold as possible to prevent mold and other types of things from growing in their experiments. So I saw that, caught my eye on Flipboard, which is an app I use to look up our stories, and I thought it was a very cool story.
There was sort of a little blurb I saw about a new predicted state of matter where it was like a liquid that was just a molecule thick. I'm having trouble finding it right now, but anyway, it would have been a good follow-up to what we were just talking about. There you go.
So the Large Hadron Collider reached a new energy level, unprecedented 1.6 tetra-electrovolts.
Tetra-electron volts, yeah.
Yeah. So basically this is the biggest smashing power we've reached yet.
We'll have to see what kinds of new particle bits are yielded with these collisions. So have they been spinning, or have they actually been colliding?
They have done initial tests on colliding. They've got it spinning up to that point, and they are testing that basically the particle detectors won't break at that energy level. Will be able to handle that energy level. So they're doing basically what would be test collisions, where they're just testing to making sure the equipment's working instead of trying to pick up new or whatever particles come out of
to
it.
do some math after the show, because every 100 volts or so, electricity will jump through an air gap for another inch or so. In other words, the more higher the voltage, the further electricity will jump.
Yeah, I think that's every 10,000 volts.
Oh, it's 10,000 volts for an inch. I wonder how far a tetravolt will go.
That's a long ways. Yeah.
And should you be anywhere near it when it's launched?
Yeah, I think there are high enough electromagnetic fields and other things to kind of try to keep that kind of thing under control. I think, supposedly.
Yep.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, this is also a call-in show. Feel free to call in to talk about any of the stuff we've talked about so far. If you've got your own technology or science-related news you want to bring to our attention, make sure we talk about before the end of the hour. The number to call, 443-TALK. That's 443-8255. I'll do my best to watch for the blinking lights. And researchers have created the first single-molecule diode. Under direction of Latha Venkataraman, Associate Professor of Applied Physics at Columbia Engineering, researchers have designed a new technique to create a single-molecule diode, and in doing so, they've developed molecular diodes that perform 50 times better than all prior designs. So yes, this is from phys.org, phys.org.
Can you patent a molecule? I wouldn't think so.
If it does something really cool.
Well, yeah, you could patent medicine. Those are nothing but molecules.
Formulations and...
That's a formulation for a specific purpose, because the patent disappears if you use it for something else. That I know from other things. If you create a medicine that, I don't know, some pill that does X, Y, Z, and you use it for a different purpose, the patent.
Off-label use of medicines,
use, especially if it's not being used to, say, cure a human.
Basically, you get the patent for the usage, not for the molecule itself.
Okay.
They might be able to get a patent on the process to synthesize that molecule, which would be basically. Whoops.
Not mine.
Not it. 1, 2, 3. Not it. Okay. Let's see. So yes, there's a single molecule diode out there, which
now to get it into production.
Yes. Very, very small things.
And make the perfect high retina display.
High DPI.
High DPI. John Nash.
Yeah, sad news.
Yeah. He was the guy who, I don't want to say invented game theory, but he moved it along and computationally in ways that had never been seen before.
Even John Nash was unable to predict this death.
Yeah, ironically.
Because
it was a very mundane death.
Yeah. It was. It was a car crash.
Car crash with a cab.
On the New Jersey Turnpike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, expect something more conspiratorial or something.
So when it comes to, game theory doesn't, how does it relate to games? It doesn't relate to...
They don't mean video games.
Yeah.
They mean predicting models of behavior.
Okay.
One great example is the prisoner's dilemma.
Okay.
So basically, for those that don't know, the prisoner's dilemma is you have two prisoners that are separated and cannot communicate with each other. And the deal is that if neither of them talk, then they will get a sentence for, say, 3 months. If both of them talk, they will get a sentence of 6 months. But if one of them talks and the other one doesn't, the one that does goes free, and the one that doesn't gets a sentence of 1 year. And so basically what John Nash would do, he would take something like this and he would build a mathematical model around that. And the weights would be, the sentences depending upon different situations, and then come up with a solution as to what the best solution, what the best course of action would be.
Yeah. Given that all of the players or actors are
unaware of the experiment,
and are playing within the bounds of the game,
right?
The rules, and
they're aware of the consequences, but they're not aware of the experiment.
They're logical actors, or they're acting in their own best interests and also within the rules of the.
It wasn't just he made some forms of both competition and ethics and decision-making computational, but it also explained a lot of things that weren't necessarily self-evident. Like, what would be the benefit of two criminals not turning on each other? Well, that one right there shows the math. their combined time in jail is now only 6 months,
Reduced shared pain.
which is the best outcome as a group, as opposed to a best outcome for the individual. And
Which is how it allowed...
there's a lot of other things that if you really make a big breakthrough, it seems self-evident after you talk about it.
One of the really interesting
But
things
it wasn't at the time.
one of the really interesting things is that through game theory and John Nash's work, you can basically prove that as a whole, society is better off with morals. You know, that was one of the big things, was that morality really does help society as a whole.
Yeah.
So it's important that everyone else be moral.
Yeah.
And it's this type of theory. It's these type of computational algorithmic results that have led to the advent of reality shows.
I would not have made that connection.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
okay.
Because people use game theory when they're competing in order to sometimes negatively or positively affect the outcome.
I don't know if they're aware they're doing that, and they may not always be logical actors.
No, but they're trying to game the system. A lot of them are trying to game the system.
Yes.
By promoting competitors, which will help their cause overall, or by trying to eliminate strong players early on in the game, that sort of thing, and trying to form alliances and that sort of thing. And all that has to do with gamesmanship. And that gamesmanship in the human sphere of morality is what causes the makers of the reality show to set up the games.
Yeah, and
so the makers of the reality show, who know that humans will act a certain way or not, will set up their games and their competitions based on those algorithmic models, so that it's harder to game the system, and at the same time, it allows the players to progress through the game with those computations in play.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
But not in quite the dry format it just gave it.
No, and it's a lot more fluid than that.
Well, it's even drier. It's all mathematical, and
I'm sure. Yeah. If I recall right, they mostly use charts.
Yeah.
What? No integral symbols?
Yeah. This is a table. We can't print this. This is a 30 pages of tables as an appendix on your paper on this paper. We can't do that. Anyway,
that would be great if someone in a reality show was on their own personal time scrolling out mathematical computations on a notepad, going, "Okay, here's my strategy."
Oh, you mean on a coconut leaf?
I'm going to defer.
Yes.
I'm going to defer from this presentation with a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So, did you guys talk about the whole adult friend finder shibboleth?
No, we didn't.
That was a breach.
That's yes.
This is awesome.
Talk about it.
Talk about game theory here.
Yes.
So, Adult Friend Finder, for those that don't know,
is a website.
Is a website where you can go to find adult friends, and
it's the cheating network.
There we go.
Is it?
Yeah. And
I know you weren't aware of that when you were playing with it, but
it was research, John.
Nice.
And they
bill themselves as a place to find, quote, friends, sex flings, and hookups.
Yeah, very classy. And they ended up leaking 39 million email account, let me put it this way, full account information for 39 million people.
Oh, I thought it was
3.9.
Yeah, I thought it was just 4 million.
Oh, it's 3.9?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
It was 4 million out of the, was it 75 million accounts? Just a large number of accounts.
Through this article, yeah.
So 3.
So I read this article like Thursday or Wednesday.
3.9 million accounts with email addresses and whether that person is married or not.
Ooh, as self-reported.
Whether or not they're in the Senate, right?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that one to come out.
Yeah, how many .gov email addresses?
Wow. So, anyway, if you happen to have an account on said service and you may not want certain
people to know about it,
delete your account, change your
go
password,
ahead and delete your account
or change your email
it's
address.
Actually too late. If the database is out there, so if your name is in the database, it's too late. If it's not in the database, then yes, delete your account, delete your email address.
What I want to know is what is the purpose of this data breach? Like, what is the... If it's just names and passwords. See, a lot of times when we talk about data breaches, like, say, the data breach of Target or the release of account information from Radio Shack, what is the... other than potentially embarrassment, what is the downside to the user with regards to this data breach?
Other than blackmail.
Well,
it's too late.
If it's public, it can't be blackmailable information either. If it's been made public, then the only other than the scruples that come along with,
unless they have a second list of another 4 million.
But do you see where I'm coming from?
Because the first 4 million would just be proof that they have the list. The second 4 million, they contact some of them, and they would get to decide whether we're on the second release.
And the other thing is, you're forgetting the first rule. Well, not the first rule. What is it? The fifth rule of 4chan. Everything is for the lulz, man. Everything is for the lulz.
Okay, fine. But that's what I wanted to get at was what is the potential downside to the users
of this thing getting out?
Yes.
For the users, it could be pretty big. I mean, imagine if you're married and you're part of that network, and then all of a sudden your email address is tied to the fact that you were on the adult friend finder, and someone goes and tells your wife.
Someone's going to create a search website on the web.
Yeah.
And you can look at your husband's, and not everyone's going to create a dummy account for that.
Yeah, but that already means that somebody had problems anyway. I mean,
so this is their solution.
I don't know. I don't see the downside to this breach, honestly. It's just the truth of something has come out now.
The truth of something has come out. That's true.
It's not the secret data has come out. It's not like the financial credit card.
But no,
it's not the bank information. It's not their mailing address. It's just basically their name and their email account.
What's it? Do you know what's included in these spreadsheets? There were like 15 different spreadsheets that were leaked. And what's the data contained on those spreadsheets?
That's what I didn't see in the story was the damning evidence. That's what I don't know.
I'm not sure. From my understanding,
are you saying that because it's different than Match.com,
email address,
because it's less legit?
Location,
because I don't want
marital
Match.com
status,
addresses being out there.
Sexual preference,
the fact that you're looking
and
for a wife.
I think like dating history.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay. So it doesn't include information that would allow someone to, do ID fraud or something like that.
Right, like when that legislator was caught on Grindr. That was pretty,
but if it includes
revealing.
things, as self-reported as, marital status and sexual preference and dating history, I mean, that's...
Well, except if you have someone's email address, you have everything about them.
Okay. Just their address?
You have where they were born, their names, their social security number. I know it's not in the social security address, but it's in the social security address.
What,
I mean, that's
email? You said email address.
Email address.
Yeah.
If you go to the search engine, the various places out there that locate things about humans in general,
sure,
okay,
they can tie amazing amounts of information about the
That's
email
true.
address.
It's scary.
Unless
I
they're
Google myself
using
all the time.
Unless they're using a burner address, and I'm sure a certain percentage of the people are using burners.
A certain percentage.
And what I mean by burners, for those aren't
for a service like Adult Friend Finder, probably, yeah.
Probably half of them,
probably
I guess.
half.
A burner address is where you just make up a new email address on Google or Yahoo that has nothing to do with you. It's just a brand new address.
And that's all you use it for, ever.
Until you forget the password.
They are ironically very hard to make.
to make correctly.
Make correctly. Because in order to create a new email on Google, in the old days you just signed up with Google and they gave you an email address. Nowadays you have to tie it to another address.
Mm-hmm.
Or tie it to your phone number. They won't just make new email addresses.
But the thing is, Google's not the only place that makes email addresses. You can make easy email addresses all over the place.
Okay. I'm not.
And Nabil's here to tell you a few. So you can re-sign up on Adult Friend Finder.
Using a safe and secure.
We've got about 10 minutes left in the program. Let's see if you've got any questions for us. Go ahead and call in, 443-TALK, 443-8255. In the meantime, let's, anybody got anything they want to talk about? John, have you exhausted your list?
No, I've got, and I question some aspects of this story, but I'll read it as if it's true.
Then I'll butt in real quick.
Because it's on the internet. So.
What's that, Mike?
Well, leapfrogging off the last story we just talked about, I found a story, 7 in 10 UK internet users happy to give away their personal information. So citizens are wary of giving credit card details, but because they believe the benefit from giving away personal data from OFCOM research says that...
Yeah, and I would say that's going to be a growing trend worldwide, including the US with young kids.
Yeah.
They're unwilling to provide their mobile phone number, but they have no problem giving away their name, where they live, who they are, email address, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And
You know,
that's on our Facebook
ironically,
page.
I think probably because your phone number is the most permanent thing about you these days.
Mm-hmm.
And also the most personal in that, you can't dodge it. I mean, necessarily. I mean, it's
I mean,
It's
email
only-
you have
you,
spam
you
filters.
can dodge it by turning your phone off, but
yes, John. You
that is
can.
very hard to do.
Yes. It only gets harder by the year. It's true.
Yeah.
From my cold, dead hands, John.
And I can choose to only respond to known phone numbers, I suppose.
Well, I do that already because I have an
By the way,
I have an
this survey
800
was-
number forwarding to my phone.
Mm,
The random calls I get.
Oh, and none
Holy
reporting.
cow.
This was 16 to 24-year-olds, by the way, the 70%.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
So young people don't know anything.
They
Except
don't.
our viewers. They know everything
They
and they're
don't know
awesome.
no better.
Yeah,
they're the
not
best.
our young people. Yes.
Right. Our viewers are smarter than that. Because we told them so. Go ahead, John.
That includes YouTube.
That's right, our YouTube viewers.
Oregon is trying out a pay per mile tax, getting away from the gas tax like we have here in Missouri. Although their gas tax is pretty high. I don't know what Missouri's is, but theirs is 30
Yeah.
cents a gallon. That's a
Wow.
At any rate, they're switching to a mechanism which you report your mileage driven. And essentially, they charge you a tax based on miles driven.
In other words, there are too many efficient cars in Oregon or electric vehicles.
Not using enough gas.
Well,
for it.
I think they're trying to, as an experiment, is this a head off the problem with the
Electric
country
cars.
moving to electric cars? And in some ways, I understand what they're doing because the truth is, right now, electric cars are a small fraction of the population.
Yeah.
But I suspect that's going to, when that sweeps, it's going to sweep fast.
And it's going to sweep places like Oregon and California first.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway.
Well, this makes sense because, vehicles that drive more have more impact on the infrastructure with regards to wear and tear on the roads.
Yeah.
So a tax that is more of a usage tax does have a little more of a one-to-one correlation with regards
Yeah.
to how much you're using the road.
Yeah.
But it's ironic that Oregon is also poised to be the only state left where you can't pump your own gasoline.
Well, that's been in effect
That's been in the
for a
news.
while.
Well,
Yeah.
no, there are two states
Is
now.
that a city ordinance?
No, that's a statewide thing.
Okay.
New Jersey has it too, don't
Yeah,
they?
yes, and they're trying to get rid of it
Why can't you pump your own gas again?
because you can't.
you just
Well,
can't.
That's why.
It's
yeah.
to save jobs.
It's basically it's to
okay.
give people jobs who wouldn't have jobs otherwise, and that's
Yep.
The general complaint is that it really makes it slow to get to the gas station.
It does.
Not because the persons running the gas pumps are slow, is that because you have to wait for a person.
Yeah, I was.
They're not
2 weeks
stocking
in,
one person per pump. It's one person going from person to person.
I spent 2 weeks in Corvallis, Oregon. I was only supposed to be there 4 days.
Because of the gas pump?
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
so.
that's
Or did you get a job?
probably not. Yeah. Yeah.
You pumping gas?
I was there 2 weeks. I did witness the
How
gas
easy
pump
is it
thing.
to get a job pumping gas in Oregon? That'd be my next question.
Well, it was actually pretty hard. I got out of the car and started pumping the gas. I got yelled at.
Oh.
So you can't just
Yeah.
hire yourself. There's an
Ah,
application
okay,
process.
okay. That's good to know.
Can you tip them and they walk away?
No.
Really?
Like, why don't you
Oh,
jump behind a bar sometime and try to tap your own beer into a mug one time and see what happens?
And now, 4 news bites. Beauty brand L'Oreal is 3D printing human skin tissue in order to test cosmetics. The company has partnered with bioprinting specialist Organovo,
I'm not linking to that story.
which can produce living human tissues mimicking the form and function of native tissues in the body, citing boundless potential for new types of tests. And no bad PR.
Until it's time to dispose of the tissue.
Until the tissue has something to say about the matter. From Scientific American, they've got an article here about why walking through a doorway makes you forget things. Scientists have now officially measured the quote-unquote doorway effect, and it supports a novel model of human memory. So yes, apparently just walking through a door frame will cause you to forget. So that explains what's going on when you're looking for your car keys and, you know, you're like looking all the way throughout your house and then you basically forget what you were looking for. That's what was going on.
Wow.
Comcast has ended an interconnection fight before net neutrality has taken effect. Comcast and Level 3 upgraded their capacity weeks before the FCC began taking complaints. So, you know, this is actually a good outcome as a result of this whole net neutrality thing, right? I mean, because...
Yeah. There are 9 so-called Level 1 backbones based on whose marketing speak you're talking to. But generally speaking, the big players trade traffic back and forth to each other at no cost.
Yeah. Because they know it would be damaging for them not to carry that traffic from this other player.
Because the receiver packet is just equally as valuable as the sender packet.
Yeah.
There's no distinction between the two. In fact, in the traditional models like telephone world, the person sending the packet gets more value, but in practice in the internet, it's almost the other way around.
Yeah.
When I go and download Netflix, I'm the receiver of the packet. I'm the one receiving value. Netflix receives some too, but I'm the one paying the bill.
Yeah.
And so it's really...
Speaking of Comcast, they may have dropped their bid to merge with TWZ.
They did.
With TWZ.
TWC.
Time Warner Cable.
Yeah. Yep. And I guess I just saw something this afternoon that Charter is making a bid for Time Warner Cable now. That'll be interesting. So, let's see here. An interesting article on popularmechanics.com. Greaseless bearings of a new design can spin with 10 times less friction. And it shows them spinning the old one and the new one just side by side. And it's pretty crazy. It just keeps going and going and going. They've basically reshaped the channel that the bearing is in to kind of create a natural gap between the bearings, where otherwise it had to have a little cage to create the spacing around the bearings.
Oh, do they do the whole golf ball effect thing?
No. They're not changing the shape of the bearings. They're changing the shape of the channel.
Of the channel, yeah. That's what I mean. Put little gouges in it so it's...
I think that's what they did, yeah. It's pretty similar to what you're talking about. A group of hackers has built a new Tor client designed to beat the NSA. Of course, you know...
It needs to go through a test first.
It needs to be tested, sure. And, you know, I'm sure that the NSA is one of those few agencies that really, you know, has nearly unlimited resources and
can
thwart whatever needs to be thwarted for the most part. And there is a flaw in the interoperable telesurgery protocol, known as ITP, a flaw as it does not use any form of encryption or authentication. So by intercepting / replaying or spoofing packets, an attacker with the ability to intercept network traffic of this source can control any device based on it. We're talking about surgical robots and telesurgery here. Not good.
Especially if there's a surgery taking place at the time.
Yes.
Given how maniacal they are about protecting and securing medical records, usually speaking, I'm surprised the protocol doesn't have.
I was going to say, doesn't this break HIPAA compliance?
Yeah, in a huge way.
No, it doesn't say who you're killing when you hack the robot.
You've been listening to KOPN Tech Radio. Up next is Jazz plus Blues equals Soul from Sir Kelvin Walsh. And thank you very much for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.